Okay, welcome to another Jim story. This happened back in 1975. I was 22 years old and married to my first wife, Yolanda. And we had a good friend of ours named Jim, who was a little older than us, who worked for IBM. And to kind of explain, he was a programmer for IBM. He was their number one troubleshooter in the country. And to kind of explain who Jim was, back in 1970, when Apollo 13 had their crises coming back from the moon, it was Jim that IBM sent in to help troubleshoot the problem NASA was having with the program on the computers that was reconfiguring the reentry. Now, NASA had been trying to do it themselves, and they didn't want to ask a vendor because they didn't want it to appear that NASA needed a vendor's help. At least this is Jim's story, and that he came in and very quickly, in less than an hour, had the problem resolved. But that's who Jim was. Now in '75, he asked Yolanda and I if we wanted a private tour of NASA, and at the time, the only way you got into NASA was through a VIP tour, and that was handled through their public relations office, and you went on a very specific route. But with Jim, we were able to go and see things that even the VIP groups didn't get to see very often. And of course, being Jim, IBM, it had a lot to do with how many computers there were and at NASA down Clear Lake, which is where we were. But towards the end of the day, he said, I've got to go over to the building I work in and do something, but I want to show you and Yolanda something. So he brings us in. It's one of the two-story all-glass buildings there at NASA that you walk up the steps to and walk in. And he brings into a fairly large lobby. Which, if you walk forward, you just to the left, you have the elevator bank going up to the second floor, I guess. And then to the right, there was a long hall, and with a guard sitting at the end of the hall and a door just to the side of the guard. Now, the guard was facing to the left, or sideways, and so was the desk, and the door was to his side. The end of the hall wall was just a solid wall. Anyway, Jim says, I gotta go down here. I can't get you in this area. I'm thinking, you just brought us into a lot of high security areas and you can't get us into your area? Okay. And he said, but stand here and watch down the hall. There's something I want you to see. Okay, well, he walks on down the hall and checks in with a guard. And now the left wall down the hall had like 2x1 boards sticking out from placed sideways, sticking out along vertically down the wall. So there's one slat after another down the hall as a darker wood, and it looked nice, and gave it upscale contemporary look. And as I say, it went all the way down the hall. And so Yolanda and I are standing there talking and waiting for Jim to come back, and suddenly a door about a third of the way, about 50 feet from us, opens up in the wall, from the wall with the vertical slats. And it just, you didn't see a door there, and suddenly some guy is walking out this door. And at first, we really didn't notice the guy. It was the fact that this door opened up in the middle of nowhere. But this guy is walking towards us, and you notice how small he was. He was very short. Now he was dressed in a three-piece brown suit with a brown hat, fedora hat, which what we used to call a businessman's hat. And in 1975, you didn't see very many men wearing hats like that. That was for the old guys from the 50s and 60s, and you might still see some of them wearing one of those hats, but that's about it. But even with the hat, he only came up to about mid-chest on me. I'm 6'1", and so he was at least a foot and shorter than me, and really shorter than that if you count the hat. And as he approaches us, and like I said, the door was probably about 50 feet away, and so there was a little walk towards us, but as you might say, as he came into view, we started noticing his face and how ugly he was. I mean, this is a little guy, and just I always refer to him as just an ugly little man, but his skin was kind of like leather and dark gray, and the eyes were bulgy, larger, not bulgy so much, but just larger, and small nose, small mouth, and he walks so close to us as he walks by that if I had stuck my arm out, I could have touched him as he went by. And both Yolanda and I had a feeling like he wanted us to be aware of him, and we were. And it's kind of like this guy could pass you by normally, and you not even particularly notice him, other than maybe he's a short man, and that's what you'd be noticing. Now, but he walks on out the doors of the building, and Yolanda and I, kind of, did you see him? I mean, what did you think? And where did he come out? Let's go look at the door, find the door. And we went over to the wall, and we started looking for a gap or a seam that the door would have to open. Now, the whole wall didn't open up, but the door would have been taller than me. It would have been, 7, 8 feet. And we kept looking for some type of gap that the door would, and we never could find one. We were checking all the way down in case we were wrong about the position, but we were pretty certain of the position of the door because it was just so surprising. I mean, that's what our original focus was on, was the door, and not the little man. And we were worried that the guard was going to come and ask us what the hell we were doing, but we went back over and stood where Jim had originally put us. And a few minutes later, Jim comes out the door at the end of the hall, and as he walks up, first thing he says is, "Did you see him?" And go, "Yeah, we saw him. Who the hell was that?" And he said, "They're different, aren't they?" And I said, "Yeah, well, there are 4 of them around here, and they all look alike and they all dress alike, and they can program circles around me, and nobody can do that." And he said, I wanted your and Yolanda's opinion as to what you thought about him. And both Yolanda and I said, well, if that's not a gray alien in disguise, I don't know what it is, but the fact that there are 4 of them and they all look alike and they all dress alike, you say, and that was just weird. So that was my aliens at NASA story, and that's it. Okay, hit like and follow. I'm supposed to say that at the end of all these videos. I'd appreciate it. I hope you have a good day. Bye. I'll be back with another Jim story.